Welcome to California Bar Prep, your study companion for the California Bar exam. In this lesson, recording acts, bona fide purchasers, and mortgage priorities. Let's begin. Recording and mortgage priority questions are title puzzles. Someone conveys Blackacre twice. A deed is unrecorded. A later buyer records. A lender takes a mortgage, and foreclosure follows. The law rewards the person protected by the recording statute, but only if that person qualifies. Always identify the jurisdiction statute, the chain of title, notice, value, and recording order. Then layer mortgage priority rules, including purchase money priority, subordination, modification, and foreclosure effects. At common law, first in time generally prevails. Recording acts alter that result to protect certain later purchasers for value who lack notice and, depending on the statute, record first. A bona fide purchaser is a purchaser who gives value and takes without notice of a prior interest. Purchasers include grantees, mortgagees, and sometimes lien creditors if the statute says so. Donees, heirs, and devisees usually are not bona fide purchasers because they do not give value, but they may benefit through the shelter rule. Notice types. Actual notice, real knowledge of the prior interest. Record notice. Notice from properly recorded instruments in the chain of title. Inquiry notice. Notice of facts that would cause a reasonable purchaser to investigate, including possession by someone other than the grantor, visible easements, or references in documents. Res statute. A later purchaser wins if the later purchaser records first, regardless of notice. Language often says the first to record prevails. Notice statute. A later purchaser wins if the later purchaser takes without notice of the prior interest, even if the later purchaser does not record first. Language often says an unrecorded conveyance is void against a subsequent purchaser for value without notice. Res notice statute. A later purchaser wins only if the later purchaser takes without notice and records first. Language often says an unrecorded conveyance is void against a subsequent purchaser for value without notice whose conveyance is first recorded. Shelter rule. A person who takes from a bona fide purchaser receives the protection of that bona fide purchaser, even if the transferee had notice, unless the property returns to a prior wrongdoer. Chain of title. A recorded instrument gives record notice only if it is in the purchaser's chain of title, while deeds, recorded before the grantor acquired title or outside the proper indexing chain, may not give notice. Mortgage priority baseline. First in time, first in right, subject to recording acts and special priority doctrines. A mortgage is a conveyance or lien securing debt, and mortgagees are generally purchasers for value for recording act purposes. Purchase money mortgage. A mortgage given to finance acquisition of the property has priority over earlier non-purchase money interests created by the buyer, because the buyer would not have acquired the property without the purchase money financing. Between purchase money mortgagees, a seller purchase money mortgage often has priority over a third-party lender purchase money mortgage unless recording statutes or agreements alter the result. Future advances. Priority for optional future advances may depend on notice of intervening liens. Obligatory advances often relate back to the original mortgage. Modification. A senior mortgagee who materially modifies the mortgage to the prejudice of junior interests may lose priority as to the modification, but not necessarily as to the original obligation. Subordination. A senior interest holder may agree to subordinate priority to a later interest. Foreclosure. Foreclosure of a senior mortgage eliminates junior interests, with juniors entitled to notice and any surplus after senior debt is paid. Foreclosure of a junior mortgage does not eliminate senior mortgages. The buyer takes subject to senior interests. Redemption. Before foreclosure, the mortgagor generally has an equitable right to redeem by paying the debt. Some states provide statutory redemption after foreclosure. Clogging the equity of redemption is prohibited. Deficiency. If foreclosure sale proceeds do not satisfy the debt, the lender may seek a deficiency judgment unless barred by statute or limited by anti-deficiency rules. California is generally treated as a res notice jurisdiction. A subsequent purchaser or mortgagee for value is protected against a prior unrecorded interest only if the subsequent purchaser takes, without notice and records first. California uses deeds of trust commonly rather than traditional mortgages. The borrower is trustor, lender is beneficiary, and trustee holds power of sale. Non-judicial foreclosure is common and governed by detailed statutory notice and sale procedures. 4 MBE questions. Treat mortgage priority principles as controlling unless California law is expressly tested. California has important anti-deficiency protections in certain purchase money and non-judicial foreclosure settings. Those rules are California-specific and not assumed on the MBE. Note: a California essay may ask about race notice recording and deed of trust foreclosure. An MBE question will usually state the recording statute or provide language from which you classify it. Trap 1. Forgetting value. A later donee with no notice is not a bona fide purchaser. But if the donee receives from a protected bona fide purchaser, the shelter rule may protect the donee. Trap 2. Treating possession as irrelevant. If someone other than the seller is in possession, a buyer is on inquiry notice of that person's rights. Trap 3. Assuming every recorded document gives notice. A wild deed or deed recorded outside the chain of title may not create record notice. Trap 4. Misreading statute type. Notice statutes do not require the later buyer to record first as against the prior unrecorded interest. Race notice statutes do. Trap 5. Ignoring mortgagees as purchasers. A lender who gives value and takes without notice may be protected by the Recording Act. Trap 6. Saying foreclosure wipes out everything. Senior foreclosure wipes out junior interests. Junior foreclosure leaves senior interests in place. Trap 7. Missing purchase money priority. A purchase money lender may beat earlier liens against the buyer because the buyer acquired title only through the loan. A standard recording question. Owner conveys to A, who does not record. Owner then conveys to B, who pays value without notice. In a notice jurisdiction, B wins immediately against A. In a race notice jurisdiction, B must also record before A. In a race jurisdiction, the first to record wins even with notice. A more advanced version inserts possession. A fails to record but lives on the property. B buys from owner. B may have inquiry notice from A's possession and therefore may not be bona fide. Mortgage questions often involve chronological liens. Bank 1 records, Bank 2 records, Bank 1 modifies, Bank 2 forecloses, or Bank 1 forecloses. Ask which interests are senior, which are junior, and whose foreclosure is occurring. Senior interests survive junior foreclosure. Junior interests are cut off by senior foreclosure if properly joined or noticed. A tax sequence. List every conveyance and mortgage in order. Identify the recording statute. For each later claimant, ask value, notice, and recording. Check chain of title defects and inquiry notice. Apply shelter if relevant. Rank mortgages by time, Recording Act, purchase money status, and agreements. Apply foreclosure consequences from the foreclosing interest priority position. Exam payoff. Recording Acts do not reward fairness in the abstract. They reward the claimant who satisfies the statute. Mortgage priority then follows the title ranking unless a special doctrine changes it. That's it for this lesson. Download California Bar Prep on the App Store for lessons on all 14 bar subjects, practice questions, and essay frameworks. Keep studying, and good luck on the bar exam.